Professional wrestling is well known for recycling aspects of gimmicks and relying on certain character archetypes. Hey, if it works, right? WWE is obviously no stranger to doing this, and that's all well and good until somebody apes another person's shtick to the point that it tips from homage to outright theft. Seriously guys, you had somebody cosplay as somebody else for a pop? Pathetic. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WWE stars who stole their gimmick. Join us. Number 10, Tiger Aly Singh from the $1 Million Man. Any Attitude Era fan from the UK will remember Tiger Aly Singh, since WWE tortured us with his presence whenever they would come over for their Blighty-based pay-per-views. Singh was pretty rubbish between the ropes, yes, but he did have an eye-catching gimmick at one point, portraying the wealthy heir to a fortune. Flanked by his feckless manservant, Singh would use the lure of cold hard cash to convince fans to do disgusting things for his amusement. An ultra-rich heel who used his immense wealth to humiliate others while utilizing a suffering sidekick to do his bidding? Now, where have I seen that one before? Tiger Aly Singh's whole deal was quite blatantly pilfered from the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. But Tiger was no Ted and Babu was no Virgil, which is why one version of this routine is beloved and the other barely remembered. It also didn't work quite as well because WWE quickly and rather predictably turned it into the stereotypical foreigner versus America narrative. At the end of the day, at least Tiger only stole a gimmick and not, say, millions of dollars of federal funds meant for needy families. Allegedly. Number 9, Valhalla from Max the Impaler. After an 18-month absence from WWE, Sarah Logan returned to the company in the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble match. The next time WWE fans would see her, however, was almost a year later and with a new gimmick and name. Accompanying the Viking Raiders to ringside, Logan was reintroduced as Valhalla and had a look to match the tag team, which includes her IRL husband, Eric. Even though they are legitimately into Viking stuff and Valhalla's appearance was clearly supposed to represent that, many on social media were keen to point out the similarity to independent worker Max the Impaler. Max, who has wrestled for Ring of Honor and AEW before, had been doing their gimmick for a while, and some believed Logan had pilfered it to use in the mainstream. These included NWA star Natalia Markova, who called out Valhalla for being a disrespectful ripoff and claimed that Logan was well aware of what Max was doing on the indies. Even though Valhalla is a Viking priestess and Max the Impaler is a post-apocalyptic survivor, their appearances are undoubtedly similar due to the hair, makeup, and ring gear, and it's no surprise that people called foul. Number 8, Ryback from Goldberg. Tough Enough Season 4 contestant Ryan Reeves didn't win the $1 million contract, but he did score himself a WWE developmental deal. After 5 years in the system, Reeves probably thought he had gotten his big break as the Nexus member Skip Sheffield, but suffered an actual break and was forced to sit out for over a year. When he returned, it was not as Skip Sheffield, but as Ryback, the muscled-up, bald-headed wrecking machine who tore through the WWE roster while amassing an impressive winning streak. Now why does that seem familiar? Despite wearing airbrushed singlets akin to those of Rob Van Dam, Ryback's act was basically a carbon copy of Goldberg's early WCW days. To be fair, it worked in a similar way, as the big guy got progressively more over with each passing squash match, even if some spectators did tease him with chants of Goldberg on his way to becoming a main eventer for a brief spell. Reeves claimed that the chants never bothered him, and he's even lobbied to be the man to beat Big Bill when the time eventually comes. Actually, that match can never happen, can it, as Ryback is officially retired from the business. Number 7, Brodus Clay from Flash Funk. Two Gold Scorpio was one of the most spectacular wrestlers of the 90s, routinely introducing the world to brain-melting high-flying moves that had to be seen to be believed. He had enjoyed a decent amount of success in both WCW and ECW, as well as overseas in Japan, where he got over by virtue of his incredible athleticism. So leave it to WWE to distract from that with a goofy gimmick right out of a 1970s blaxploitation film. Scorpio was dubbed Flash Funk, coming to the ring in a garish get-up accompanied by the Funkette dancers, who he proceeded to get down with. Get down with, that's what the kids say, isn't it? When it was deemed Brodus Clay required a repackage in 2012, he re-emerged as the Funkasaurus. And who are those lovely ladies walking him down to the ring? Why, they are the Funkadactyls, of course. And yep, there they go, dancing up a storm. How very 1996 of them all. Brodus may have borrowed Scorpio's dance moves, not to mention Ernest the Cat Miller's old theme music, but sadly he didn't borrow his in-ring ability, and the Funkasaurus found himself staring down extinction before long. Number 6, American Alpha from the world's greatest tag team. To be fair, amateur wrestlers do all have some characteristics in common and often wrestle a similar style. But the teaming of Chad Gable and Jason Jordan as American Alpha had more than just a whiff of the NXT creative team trying to replicate a successful duo from over a decade prior. Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas burst onto the scene at the end of 2002 as Team Angle, the bone-bending backup of then WWE champion Kurt Angle. It wasn't long before they outgrew their mentor, ditching him to become the self-proclaimed world's greatest tag team. As great as they were, it was hard to watch Gable and Jordan throwing suplexes and slapping on submissions in their red, white and blue singlets and not be reminded of Haas and Benjamin. American Alpha were aware of it too, stressing in interviews that they didn't want to be viewed as a Team Angle clone. Seriously, that boy just has no respect for his father, does he? Speaking of the Olympic hero, I would be remiss if I didn't note that Jack Swagger could also be accused of gimmick infringement for his WWE routine, which included adopting Kurt's ankle lock finishing hold. Number 5, Triple H from Shane Douglas. Hunter Hearst Helmsley climbed the WWE ladder during the second half of the 90s, going from the lower card Connecticut Blue Blood to the sophomoric lackey of Shawn Michaels to the outright leader of D-Generation X. It was only in mid-99, however, that Triple H took a sledgehammer to the glass ceiling and became a main event player for real. As well as tacking on more size and switching from tights to trunks, Hunter also grew out his facial hair, developed a fondness for wearing leather Kangol caps backwards, and started referring to himself as The Game. This new look and attitude were, to those who watched ECW, reminiscent of the franchise character that Shane Douglas had been doing for the past couple of years. This was hammered home with Triple H's new serious promo style. In fact, Douglas himself remarked how he once overheard an interview of his would-be admirer that was almost word for word something he himself had done on ECW TV. Shane also remarked that he was flattered by it and credited the cerebral assassin as being smart for bringing something from a smaller stage to the primetime. See, Douglas can say something nice about one of the members of the clique. Number 4, Mark Jindrak from Lex Luger. Once tipped for a spot in Evolution, former WCW Tag Team Champion Mark Jindrak had to make do with joining forces with Garrison Cade prior to being drafted to SmackDown, where Jindrak attempted to go solo with a new gimmick. Rebranding himself as the reflection of perfection, Jindrak had Teddy Long as his mouthpiece, talking him up as he checked himself out and flexed in a full-size mirror that he brought to the ring. 11 years prior, of course, Lex Luger was doing the exact same routine, minus the Teddy Long part, as the narcissist. Though both men were convincing as cocky, good-looking guys obsessed with their own ripped physiques, neither the narcissist nor the reflection of perfection really took off. And if you're wondering why you can't recall Jindrak's makeover from this period, it's because the act was mostly confined to little-watched weekend show Velocity. Jindrak would re-emerge on SmackDown later without the mirror, aligning himself with Kurt Angle and Luther Reigns. A few months later, WWE would try something very similar to the narcissist once more with the debuting Chris Masters, a comparison that seemingly irked the young masterpiece. Number 3, Lay Cool from the Beautiful People. TNA, quite rightly, got plenty of stick for trying to copy what WWE had done successfully in the past. They'd sometimes hire WWE cast-offs and try and replicate gimmicks and storylines, which only succeeded in making them look second-rate. TNA were also, quite rightly, praised, however, when they hit on something good that was genuinely original. Like the Beautiful People, a stable of arrogant TNA knockouts who saw it as their mission to rid the promotion of all the uglies. Inspired by films like Mean Girls, as well as paparazzi-friendly celebs like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, the Beautiful People were anchored by enduring members Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Sky and Love felt slighted by WWE's Lay Cool, the bullying duo of women's champion Layla and Michelle McCool, with the two teams engaging in a public, thinly veiled war of words that saw the Beautiful People accuse Lay Cool of ripping them off. There's no doubt that the gimmicks were similar, Valhalla, with some outright claiming that Lay Cool was created as a direct response to the Beautiful People's popularity. I'm not sure I entirely buy that personally, but I will go back and watch my compilation of the Beautiful People's entrances to make sure. Just give me a couple of hours, and do not open the door. Number 2, Ric Flair from Buddy Rogers. When Ric Flair began his professional wrestling career, he was a barrel-chested bruiser with a buzz cut. But Flair then slimmed down, grew his hair out, bleached it blonde, and began referring to himself as the Nature Boy while adopting a more technical style. Slick Rick was not the first Nature Boy, of course. That was Buddy Rogers, the inaugural WWE champion and a former NWA World's Heavyweight champion who was one of the biggest stars of his era. Flair not only took Buddy's nickname, but also nicked his figure 4 leg lock finishing move and did a variation of his trademark strut. So, did he ask for permission to do this, or had the dirtiest player in the game done Rogers, well, dirty? According to Flair, the first time he encountered Buddy was backstage at a show where Rogers introduced himself by saying, "Just remember there's only one diamond in this business and you just met him, hence the diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair." As everyone knows, the 16-time world champion is far from a simple imitation and forged his own legacy as one of the best to ever do it. Rogers and Flair actually became friends outside of the ring and even clashed inside it on a few occasions. I'm seeing double. 4 Nature Boys. Number 1, Hulk Hogan from superstar Billy Graham. Hulk Hogan is one of the most recognizable professional wrestlers, nay, one of the most recognizable human beings, period, on the planet. The human hot dog with the bandana and bleached blonde horseshoe mustache is an icon of the industry and has been endlessly parodied due to his characteristics. And that is pretty ironic, since the Hulkster very liberally took inspiration from another superstar. The superstar, actually, because Hogan essentially took his appearance and half his act from superstar Billy Graham. Whether it was the tie-dye type clothing, the bodybuilding poses, referring to his arms as pythons, or the liberal use of the word brother, Hulk saw what worked for Graham and thought, well, I'm sure that would work for me too, brother. Hogan himself has admitted as much, noting how he used to attend Superstars matches as a youngster and tell his father that he wanted to be just like Graham. Literally. To be fair, a lot of successful wrestlers borrowed from Billy, including Jesse Ventura and Ric Flair, but it's the most glaringly obvious when you put Graham and Hogan next to one another. Now just what are you gonna do, brother, when the gimmick police come looking for you?